Hey everybody, welcome again to another video, another broadcast. Today is September the 13th. Wow. I'm getting my dates mixed up again. Today is January the 13th. Today is January the 13th, 2026. And I hope you guys having a wonderful day. Happy Tuesday to you. At least I got that right. Welcome to another broadcast. Y'all, we have a ton of things we are going to talk about on this broadcast. A lot of news to cover. We're going to talk about, experimentation that is still going on today in 2026. And what I mean by experimentation, well, we'll find out, okay? We're also going to talk about the other thing that's going on, and that is you got, I Show Speed, the famous YouTuber. Now, the guy's only 20 years old. I mean, man, the dude he's doing it. He's doing it. He's going all throughout the continent of Africa. He always does like these tours where he just picks a country and just goes through the whole country from top to bottom. I mean, in terms of being he's his own brand. I mean, literally, he's his own brand now. I mean, doing some very, very smart moves. I got to hand it to him. We'll just take a quick look at that. We're also going to talk about this situation going on in out in California where there's a destination barbecue. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I got a video on that. Someone's kind of breaking that down where basically you got black man that's working for a white man, a barbecue place out in it's in Temecula now. And and I will get into that a little bit. And the internet has a lot to say on that. And of course I do too. So we'll be talking about that and a lot of other things, y'all. Okay. So stay tuned, you guys. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with this brand new song that I put together just last week. I told you I'm always doing things, and I try to always make it a point to put my thoughts on paper. And so I did that, and with the help of AI, I was able to put together this song that you're about to hear. It's called African Violet. And I put the words under, you're on YouTube now, if you go under post, I have the words there so you can follow along and listen to it as we're kind of waiting for people to get on board here. And let's go ahead and get this song on again. It's a brand new song that we're dropping. It's called African Violet.
They took me from my window, put me under neon lights. Say grow the same, don't ask why. And somebody else is climbing. Told me bloom wherever planted. But they never change the soil. Still I learned to bend towards something. Still I learned to save my joy. I grew quiet, I grew careful. Learned to drink just what I need. But don't confuse my meditation for the limit of my seed. I ain't broken, I ain't small. I'm just listening to the room. I was built for gentle waters, not the pressure of this gloom. I'm an African violet. I don't bloom just anywhere. I don't beg the sun to love me. I need balance in the air. I'm an African violet. measuring my petals by the ruler of the stone. Wonder why I don't grow reckless in a place that hates my form. I learn patience, I learn silence, I learn power, don't need noise. I don't waste my energy trying to impress a void. Every leaf a declaration, every root a quiet plan. I am not what you allow me, I'm more than where I stand. I can feel another climate calling softly through my veins. I don't curse the place I'm in, but I won't confuse it with my name.
Come on, come on, come on.
I'm an African violet. I'm an African violet. I don't bloom just anywhere. I don't break myself for survival. I require love and care. I'm an African violet. Still restrained but still complete. I don't shrink to fit the system. I remember who I be. They say, why you so sensitive? I say, that's how I survive. And they say, why you need conditions? I say, that's how I stay alive. I don't need to harden my petals just to prove that I'm real. Some flowers conquer deserts, others teach the world to feed. I am not limited by the room, and I am nothing. I'm in bloom. Say it loud. I know my needs. Find it out. Hey, violet. I'm an African violet. Hear my roots, they run deep. I survive with self-respect, not on hunger, not on grief. I'm an African violet. If the light don't love me yet, I'll keep tending to my spirit. I ain't seen my ceiling yet. I ain't seen my ceiling yet.
Have you seen your ceiling
I
yet?
ain't seen my ceiling yet.
You haven't seen my ceiling yet. I don't know about you. You haven't seen my ceiling yet. Come on.
Still growing, still knowing this soil is temporary.
This soil is temporary. Still growing, still knowing. This soil is temporary. All right. Well, welcome to another broadcast. You know how we got to do, y'all. We just don't just jump in and just be going off and going into the news and all of that stuff. We got to start it off. Come on, we got to get loose. Well, again, welcome. So glad that you guys could join us. And if this is your first time, yep, this is how we get down. Don't be fooled by the grays and this beard. These hips, they still got some move in them, okay? I still got something in me, okay? Okay, and we're going to keep on putting it down just like that, all right? So, yes, so glad to have you guys here. Really appreciate it. Trying to figure out how we're going to make that song available. But in the meantime, you could just come back to the video and listen to it. Trying to figure out how I'm going to do that, okay? Because, yeah, I really, really like that one. How did I get that song? Real quick story, I'll tell you. Real quick story. I have been, as I always is just really deep introspection, just about a lot of things, right? Very long story short. What I always try to do is to look at my life, look at life in general, just us as human beings, us as black folks or whatever. And I try to equate it to what I see just in nature. That's kind of what I do. You know what I mean? And when I do that, it always helps me to get a better perspective on just my own life. It's really something. Once you really sit down and really begin. That's why, it's really important for you to really to put in the work and just understanding how nature works. Why does your body always tend to heal itself? Why is it that trees bloom in a certain time of the year and while others don't? Why is it that, insects, they are attracted to certain colors or whatever? These are things that, if we can really understand that, if we can really begin to understand these things, I'm telling you, it will help us to understand a whole lot. And I was really bothered by, I promise y'all, we're not going to get too far into this, but it was a while back. Recently, I've been hearing this for years, and I'm sure many of you have heard this as well, and how people look at the whole IQ scores, and they say, white people tend to score at a much higher level than black people and all of that. And then they try to make this argument that there's a genetic reason why that is and all that stuff. And we've been through that many times and completely, utterly debunk that. It's ridiculous, right? And you do it scientifically. You just hit the science. You just go right to the science. And one of the things that I was researching, looking into, because it was this individual that got online. It was saying how they were bragging about how Europeans came to Africa, and they said we brought written language into Africa. I was like, okay, I guess Egypt doesn't count for anything. You know what I mean? I guess some of these other kingdoms, they don't really count for anything. But that's what this individual was telling their followers, and their followers are like eating it all up. And so I wanted to find out, has there been any studies on the intellect of those who did not have written languages? Because that is true that you had many cultures within Africa who did not have their written language. And so you have a lot of people who say that just because of that they were less intelligent, but it's not true at all. When you start looking into these different cultures, what you'll find that when they would pass down information, and many of us already know this, of course, it was word of mouth, right? You had your elders. The elders, they would be the gatherers of information, and it was their responsibility to pass that down to the next generation, so forth and so on, right? And so, but over time, it turns into what we would call today the telephone game, because things get lost, things get forgotten, things get distorted, so forth and so on, right? But I don't want you to really focus on that. I want you to focus on the fact that information, the way it was retained by these cultures, it was retained in a way where we had to contextualize the information. In other words, it's if I write it in a book and I give it, and if we're writing this down in these cultures, you write it down and you give it to them, they're like, okay, all right, but how do I contextualize that? How do I make that mine? Let me give you an example of what I'm saying. So in other words, if I were to, and I share this example all the time, my children, when they were babies, when they were little toddlers, it was time for me to teach them about, staying away from the stove when it's just period. I don't want you anywhere near the stove. And so one day the stove was open and I was like, oh, I got to remind them of this. So the stove was on, I should say. And I gently put their hand on the stove long enough for that to be like, for them to pull it back. When I did that, then I said, now you see there, this is why you should never touch the stove. And I had no problems with them ever since. No issues. Now, when it comes to cultures, the cultures that didn't have the written language, that is how knowledge was passed down. That's how it was retained. It had to be something that they embodied. So when they would look at the stars and they would see the different constellations, it had to be taught in a way that it made sense for their daily life. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we're talking about the constellations and the different formats of the stars and all of that, how does that relate to what I'm doing right now, to my farming? How does that relate to, giving birth? How does that relate to that? And so they were able to take that knowledge and embody it where it was something that they just literally breathed and all that, and they understood. See, the mistake that a lot of these people make is that they want to say that people in Africa didn't have an understanding of math, which is it's just about as dumb as I don't know what for anybody to say or to even suggest a thing, because the basics of mathematics that we have today, a lot of it actually came out of Africa. And we talked about that, did a whole video on that. I have posts on that as well. Not all of it, but a lot of the math when you're dealing with fractals, for example, so the basics of mathematics, it came out of Africa, right? So anyway, when it came to mathematics, it wasn't just, okay, y'all, we're going to learn how, if you got a train on this track, and then you got another train on this track, and they both at what point are they going to collide? I can't learn that way, because I would sit in math class and be like, my mind was telling me why they on the same track. I'm more concerned about that. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if I was to tell that to a mathematics teacher, they would say, oh, Dwayne, well, see, you really don't have the aptitude for math if that's what you're concerned about. No, that's my ancestors, right? That's my DNA that's telling me, no, we have to understand that so we can use math to fix the problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? But first, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. You understand what I'm saying? And it goes with anything else. So why did I say all this? So when we dealing with cultures, right? Because I've been reading about, off and on about ethnomathematics. When people hear that, they automatically assume that that means you're lowering the standard. No, it doesn't. We have to be able to embody the information. We have to make it ours, right? So for us to understand it. The standard can stay the same, but how it's communicated, well, that needs to be adjusted and all of that, right? So anyway, fast forward. So they took us away from that space that we were in. As, human cargo, we were transported away from this land where that's how we learn things, to a land where they said, this is the standard, this is how you learn, this is how you live, this is how we determine if you're successful, this is how we determine if you're a failure in life, this, that, whatever. They came up with a whole new situation, right? Now, they did that for people, but they also did that when it comes to plants and everything else. Think of all the different plants and even animals that they have moved from their natural habitat over to a brand new habitat, right? Well, one of the plants, and I talked about this over on our Samba Tree broadcast, is the palm tree. Okay, now the palm tree I'm in Arizona. I'm looking out my window right now. I'm looking at a bunch of palm trees. The palm tree isn't native to this land, isn't native to Arizona. It isn't. Just like the palm tree isn't native to California. It isn't. Now I would say that the palm tree is native to places like Florida. I could go with that. And of course the Caribbean and all of that. And even the desert when you're going in Dubai and Qatar and all of that, its natural habitats are there, but not here in places like Arizona or in California. No, it's not. You know how they ended up here or why they ended up here? They ended up here because they wanted to upsell the desert. That's what they wanted to do. The developers came in and they looked at the desert and they was like, how can we make this place look exotic, right? So they brought in a bunch of palm trees. So they brought these palm trees in. Now, the palm trees can handle the heat. They're like 100%. They're like right on. This is the heat. We could take this heat, right? They can grow in it. But that's only one element. But they're missing some of the other things too. Palm trees by nature, they have deep, when they grow their roots, it's deep. They have deep roots. If you ever found yourself lost in the deserts in the Middle East somewhere and you were looking for water, you always look for palm trees, because if you find the palm trees, that means you can find, if you can dig deep enough, you'll be able to find some water, right? That's how they grow. Now and that's why when you go to the Caribbean, South Pacific Islands, Florida or whatever, I mean, the winds can be crazy fast, right? Buildings are collapsed, the whole nine. But what it's the palm trees that you see that are most of the time standing, right? Why? Because their roots are deep. They're in the environment that they were supposed to be in. Okay. Now here in Arizona or in California, we get a monsoon that comes through here. When the first plants to fall down is what? The palm trees. Why? Because their roots has to grow a whole different way. They got to readjust. They have to grow more on the surface. So a good wind comes by strong enough. A lot of times these trees are the first ones to fall down. So how does that come to the song? It comes to the song because I was thinking about black folks, because that made me think about black people. I said, now, if that's true for the trees, then it's also true for people. What did we lose? But here's the thing. I'm looking out the window again right now. Those palm trees are still growing. They are still growing. They're still growing. Now, are they growing at the maximum that they can be? No. Because they're not in their optimum environment. But is that stopping them from growing? No, it's not. Guess what? Because they found a way. They made adjustments and they found a way. And that is us as black folks. We have to see that in us. That even though the answer isn't going back to Africa, it isn't relocating back to Africa. The answer is understanding that what's already inside of you can adapt, can adjust, and you can grow. Is it going to be the max? Is it going to be the optimum? No, it's not. And let me let you in on a secret. There are a lot of plants in places like Africa, wherever, that aren't even growing to their optimum as well. See, let me tell you something. You know what? Inside of me, I always feel like I'm a lot bigger than I really am. No, it's not pride or arrogance. It's nothing like that. I always feel like I am limited to what I can really be. I always feel that. And it is the most frustrating thing. But it dawned on me the other day. I said, you know why? Because this environment is not designed for you to see everything that you really are. If we were to really see who we really are, Earth couldn't even hold it. We're a lot bigger than this. This is a classroom. A classroom doesn't show your full potential. It never does. A classroom is a place for preparation. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what a classroom is for. Earth is a classroom, and it's preparing us for whatever's next. That's what it is. So you'll never get to the optimum full potential wherever you go. It doesn't matter. This is a training ground for whatever's next. But the real you that's inside of you is a lot bigger than all of this. It gets frustrated because I get so mad because I'm sitting up here like, the heck, it just feels like daggone it. No matter how hard I try, there's another roadblock. There's another this, there's another that. You could do positive confessions. You could do this, you could do that, you could do this, you could do that, so forth and so on. And it seems like they got this system rigged, and it is. It's like, why is it that these evil people are always winning? They're always winning, always. And don't tell me because black people are cursed. Please sign off now because I don't have time for that. This system was not designed for you to be at your optimum, and it's not. It's not. You call it racism, you call it whatever you want. It is designed for those that are within whatever societies. Is for them, right, to be at their optimum. But don't let that stop you from being the best that you can be. You still can grow. You still can do a lot of things. You still can. And I'm telling you that, but I'm telling myself that too, because all I see in front of me right now is my Canon camera. I'm looking right at it. I don't see people. I see a reflection of myself. So it's really like I'm talking to myself right now. But yeah, so I did that. And so anyway, so that was a long days of thought that I was just really processing that. And I said, what other plant? I said, is the African violet like that? And it was, it's like, yeah, it's the same situation. So I said, change. I said, I actually like the African violet. I want to make it into about an African violet or whatever. And I added some things to it or whatever. And then that's how I got the song. But that is what I want y'all to understand. Okay, we're not, yes, the system is what it is. We got it. We understand it. But it doesn't mean that you cannot grow. It doesn't mean that. You're still going to grow. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new day of opportunity, discovery, for growth, for getting your mind right and all of that. If I can't grow up, I'm going to grow sideways. I always have in mind, in my mind, when we are fighting against weeds, right? Even that whole thing is crazy. You're actually fighting against weeds. You pull up the weeds, guess what? You come back the following week, it's like they growing up this way. Then guess what? Then the next time when they grow up, guess what? They start spreading out. They start multiplying. The human body does the same thing. You could scratch yourself. You could do all kinds of things, but guess what happens? Your body still will find a way and start healing itself automatically. Everything in nature is about that. Everything in nature is pulling you to moving forward. Everything. We just got to get this right? We got to get our nervous system right. That's why I keep telling y'all breathing exercises. Make sure you're doing that every day. I'm very serious about that. And so anyway, so I just wanted to share that. That was the story behind the song there. And I'm working on another one too, because I take these, a lot of times I get into these deep trains of thought or whatever. And I'm like, let me make a song about it, because this thing got to stick with me, because that's how I learn. That's how it gets in me. Come on now. You went into church all these years, some of y'all, and they would create songs to get the matrix code welded inside of you. You kept singing those songs. The songs were based off of what was in the Bible. So you would keep singing it over and over again. But this is how we learn, particularly us as black folks. That's how we learn. That's why we're so good at it when it comes to music, particularly gospel music, soul music, R&B, and all of that stuff, because that is who we are. There is something in our DNA that resonates with that. Because it's not just shaking your behind and all of that. We are actually learning. You got some good brothers out here and sisters out here that understand that, and they're actually taking music and mathematics, putting them together and saying, this is how we're going to teach. And they're seeing results with the children just like that. Black children left and right, they're picking it up just like that. Because now they figured out, oh, okay, let's put it together. Now, everybody else will look at it and say, oh, you're learning. Oh, that's cute. Look at the little Negro children. They're learning with drums. But guess what? You keep at it and they'll start busting it out, because that's how we learn. You understand what I'm saying? So so when people start pulling that nonsense, I said, don't ever come I'm not the one to be coming up in my face with that. I will rip you apart with that nonsense. Talking about we're less intelligent because we don't learn a certain way. No, everybody is not built to learn the same way. They're not. And so, and there are realities when you take someone out of an environment and put them in another environment. There are realities that have to be dealt with, but it doesn't mean that you can't grow. I could take a soursop plant. Yes, soursop plants, they will grow wonderfully in the Caribbean, but I can also grow a soursop plant here in the desert. With the right stuff, I can still make it happen. But I got to know the right things to give it. This is what we do at Samba Tree. See, Samba Tree ain't just some store we just kind of threw together and it's like, oh, there's a quick way we could. No, it is a mission for us. Because what we understand is every product that we give, that we're putting out here, it's directly tied to how we are built as Black folks. Directly tied to it. So when we're doing this citrus sale, for example, or this soursop sale, or whatever whatever it is that we're doing right now, it is directly tied to the DNA structure, the genetic structure of our people. You understand what I'm saying? That's why we do what we do. And I have a whole thing I did just on the importance of Black folks taking in citrus. It's very important. Because a lot of Black folks, we like to talk about, oh, melanin, we got our melanin and stuff. Yep, we sure do. But you need something to go with that to optimize your melanin and what your melanin does. And what citrus provides, it actually assists all the work that your melanin is doing for your body. That's why we're doing that. And we're going to keep on providing stuff just like that along those lines that are helpful and get us to be thinking about these things. You know what I'm saying? So that we can be a better version of ourselves on a daily basis. All right. So that's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's your opener. Well, good to see everybody in the chat. Welcome. So glad to have everybody here. And we getting ready to dive right into it. I'm going to move this video over here while I'm talking here. Let's see. I got Justice in the house. We got Calculated Crescendo in the house. We have Marleyisms in the house. Who else we got here? Chris is in the house. We got Todd. What's that? We got William in the house. Hey, bro, haven't seen you in a while. And we got a lot, and then other people too who are watching. Good to see each and every one of you guys here. And let me go ahead and bring this video over. Let's go ahead and start with this story here. This comes by way of California IA. And I'll just give you a quick rundown of this story as I'm talking. There's a restaurant that was been getting a lot of traction on TikTok, on social media. And the name of I think it's called Barbecue. I just said it. Destination Barbecue. There it is. Destination Barbecue. And this is a restaurant where they are known for, this saying is called tenderisms. And they have an older Black gentleman who basically, he did this video, and you can look it up. I'm just kind of skipping through some things here. Now I'm going to show you this video. And basically, he's the Black guy. If you haven't seen it by now, he'll take the rib bone and go like this, and then the meat just fall off. And he's like, he gets up, does what we do and all of that. And say, man, this meat is so tender. You got to come on out here. Well, I know when I first saw that, my assumption was it was his restaurant. I didn't even know where the restaurant was. And so, whatever. And then I kept watching, and I find out, oh, no, it's not his restaurant. It's this other guy's restaurant. Don't care. And I was cool with that. I was fine with that, right? Here's a white guy. Like I said, none of that fazed me. I had no problem with that at all. But I did see, my wife and I, we were watching a video. This is before all this blew up, right? Where they were giving like the story about how the restaurant started and the whole nine, right? And so sometimes I will say things before my wife says it. Other times it's vice versa, but this time my wife said it, and she had that one eyebrow up and saw looking at the arrangement here, the white guy here and the Black guy here. First thing like, is he getting paid? That's what he was looking at, because it's like, okay, this is looking like a case of Uncle Ben's rice. That's what this is looking like. And so I said, yep, beat me to it. But I said, you know what? I don't know. I don't know these people, whatever. Just let it be. Well, anyway, fast forward. Keith Lee, as you guys, I'm sure know, he went out there to do a review, and he does. And that's why I like a lot of these food reviewers. They go to the place, but they'll maybe send somebody else in there so that you can get the real. Sidetrack, and I'm acknowledging this. Orlando, the guy that used to be on whatever that show is on Disney, he fell into some hard times or whatever. Well, he has a chicken restaurant that's not too far from where I live. And basically he had someone come out and to review his stuff. They came out the first time and he ghosted them. So the guy was like, okay, screw that. Let me do something else. Well, he called this guy out again the second time to do a review. And the guy does what he always does. He said, I'm going to send somebody else in there. He sent somebody else in there, got the chicken and all that. And you could see the reviews. He was just like, He was really trying to be ultra nice, but he was like, yeah, it just ain't ready for prime time, basically, right? Well, now he's suing him. Orlando's suing him now because he gave him a bad review. I said, these folks. Anyway, getting back to that, well, that's what Keith Lee does. That's why Keith Lee really gets a lot of respect out in these streets, because he just tried to keep his reviews legit, because if they see him coming in, they're going to give him the best plate. They're going to give him the best of everything, the best of service, the best table, the best silverware and all of that stuff. He's like, nah, let me send my wife in there or somebody else and I'll just, I'll do it that way. Well, that's what they did. And he tasted it and doing it right in his car. And, he was like, this is good, but this is okay and all of that and, whatever. And, so the review was okay. It wasn't like stellar. It was okay. And so Keith Lee, being Keith Lee, was like, hey, I came out here to review him, let me do something for him. And so what he do? He always going to be dropping some serious money on these little restaurants that he goes to. So in this case, it was $4,000 and he was going to give it to this black dude, Unc. Everybody call him Unc. He was going to give it to him directly. Well, he went there to give it to him. He was like, okay, is Unc around? Because I want to give him something. And a security guard, he was like, no, you can't see him now. This is Keith Lee now. You can't see him now. They're doing a podcast. Bruh, if Keith Lee came to my door right now, the next thing you would see on this video would be nothing, because I would be right at the door, okay? I check y'all later, okay? I would say my breakthrough is... I'll see y'all in the next video, okay? Maybe I'll do a short for it, but see, I'm already in my mind, okay, shake the brother's hand and we talk or whatever. You gonna leave a bag? Y'all know I'm playing. I don't be like looking at people sniffing for money all the time, but I'm just playing around, okay? Then after that, bro, I'll be going to the ATM. So I'm like, okay, doing the math. Okay, so do I go back and do a video? Nah, man, let that thing get cooked in the ATM for a little bit, okay? Then I'll come back and do a video. I ain't, I'm done. But this Negro, they was like, oh, he's Mr. Important now. He's not available right now, right? So Keith Lee was like, okay, bump that. I'll take the money and let me give it to people around the community, which he did. Well, now you got the white guy who's the owner. He's going around doing all these videos. It's like, dude, just shut up. Digging himself in a hole and trying to make it seem like, oh, well, Keith Lee should have did this and that or whatever. And I'm like, bruh, Keith Lee got too much respect in these streets. Just stop. Just stop it, right? And so, and then Unc, to say, I hate to say it, but Unc, I saw quite a few people in the comments. They were like, some people just love being in that position, and ain't nothing you can do. There's really nothing you could do. Some people just love being Uncle Ben, and that's just what it is. And that's what it seems like, because they were showing the video I saw in the restaurant. They got his face all over the place, right? But this white dude, he's all on the videos and doing all, and it's just, I told my wife today, I said, you just can't fight the optics. I mean, they may have a legit relationship and all of that, but it just seemed like an Uncle Ben situation to me. I mean, it just, black folks, we got a long history of that, where our black faces have been used to sell food and other products, and black folks are always the ones that get in shortchanged. So this ain't helping. You know what I'm saying? And people got every right to be kind of curious and, saying what they're saying about this. But anyway, this young lady went out to to the original restaurant, which is not in existence, but she's given a little more history. Like I try to give you a summary of it, but she's given some history of this restaurant here. And so I wanted to play the video for you. The just to give you proximity. The restaurant today is located in a town called Temecula. Temecula is like halfway between San Diego and I would say San Bernardino. The town of San Bernardino is like halfway in between. It's part of the Inland Empire, right? It's part of the Inland Empire. Yeah, I'm trying to put it in a way for people who aren't familiar with that. Well, the original restaurant was in a town called Hemet, which is way out. Is he out even further than that? I'm surprised that black folks even lived out there. But anyway, let me play this video. It's about 5 minutes long, and she's going to give a little bit more history. So let's take a listen and check this out.
Take a trip down memory lane when it comes to Destination Smokehouse. Now, y'all see this building in back of me? Well, some of y'all may not know, but this was actually the original location of Destination Smokehouse. It's in a town located called Hemet, California. For those of you who aren't familiar with the area, it's basically like the hills have eyes. It's a retirement community. Now, when I would visit my mom, I would come out here, and pretty much out in Hemet, Destination was the only place to eat at. My favorite menu item was the brisket Philly. It was the only thing that I would order. And I would always get my order to go because, y'all, it's the hills have eyes out here. So one day I'm ordering my food to go, and in walks Mr. Tenderism himself. And mind y'all, this was before social media, this was before the hype, this is before the new owners bought the restaurant and moved it to Marietta. And this was such a sweet black man. And I asked some of the workers that were working there, I was like, who is this man? And they said, oh, you know what? He's been working here for years. He was one of the original chefs. And this good barbecue that you're tasting, it was actually his recipe. So according to the locals, from what I was told, rumor has it, is that it's Unc's recipe. Now, some of you may be thinking, why is this relevant? Why is this important? Well, when the new owners bought it over, it was a little disappointed because I thought, oh, well, maybe they're just expanding and they're going to keep this location in Hemet. Well, unfortunately, they didn't. So all of the employees that worked there were without a job because driving from Hemet to Marietta out here in the IE is just a lot for people. So we got a new location and still Unc's recipe. Now, the question is because he may have been the original chef or the cook, but it was his original intellectual property. So if he created the recipe, the new owner buys the restaurant, takes Unc's intellectual property to a new location, is he giving Unc his rights? Is he giving him the money that he deserves for his unique original recipe? Because if it weren't for Unc's recipe, then it would be no Destination Smokehouse. And I understand, like, I'm not trying to be in Unc's wallet. No one is debating what their financial situation or what their agreements are. This is important to our community because so many times, especially in melanated communities where we create something, we have an original idea, and someone else capitalizes and colonizes off it. So for those of us that are invested in this whole narrative and this story, the concern is because this is a man's intellectual property. This is something that he probably had in his family generation recipe for years where he put his foot in it. Is he getting the credit? Is he getting the rights that he deserves for creating something such as this? Because without Unc's recipe, if it is his original recipe, rumor has it that it is, I'm just speculating off of what came out of people's mouths that served me at the restaurant, the original restaurant. If it is, give him his rights to the recipe that he created, because if it weren't for Unc, there would be no Destination Smokehouse. And this also goes along the lines of colonization, capitalism, and exploiting people for their time, money, energy, and resources, and not fairly compensating them. This is actually the same concept of thinking that there isn't enough for everybody when we live in a world of abundance. And if the restaurant is benefiting financially off of this man's intellectual property, then it is only morally right to actually give him what he deserves. And, I just want to say to Unc, from somebody who has been down with your recipe from back in the Hemet, yo, you got people that love you, that support you, that just want to see you do right. And we may understand, you might feel like you have a certain level of loyalty to this situation because, being from where you are, living out here, you probably live in Marietta now. That's a lot better than living in Hemet. But we want to let you know that loyalty has nothing to do with the king that you are. So if there is any manipulation going on, this is why the internet is coming for the situation. And if it's something as simple as to just easily clearing it up, right? Rather than gaslighting and avoiding the conversation and still carrying on and using Uncle as the social media spokesperson. Because if you are a company, by the way, and you are having someone grow your social media account, there should be a monthly payment for that as well, right? Because influencers, as we are in the world of social media, actually come with a price too. So if it's not Unc's recipe and he is actually helping the business grow because of his unique persona, actually it's not even a persona, that's just who Unc is, then he should be rightfully compensated for that as well. That's all I'm saying. And I'm sure many of y'all would.
Sorry, thank you. Someone said I was muted. All right, there you go. All right, so let me go back again. I was just saying that, that quote that you just saw me up there, that was just up there. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that, yeah, I think the internet does need to leave this alone. But but what's happening is the owner is actually the one that's still feeding into it. And my volume should be up now. I'm looking right now. Yeah, I did have it muted. Sorry about that. The owner is still feeding into it. Like just recently, he just uploaded another video. This time he had Unc on there and the bodyguard. And, the bodyguard, he's back there. You can look at the video. He's up back here literally doing this. I said, these people now that are in whatever this society is, nobody holds your hand. Nobody naturally holds your hand like that. We know. We already know. And I was like, okay. Anyway, so he's, so the owner is feeding into this. And, and so you keep feeding into the mob, guess what's going to happen? The mob's going to respond. But when Keith Lee went there, I think from what I could see, he went there in good faith, like he goes to any other place. And, a lot of times people want a little shine on what they're doing, but with shine comes exposure. And there were things that were exposed that inadvertently were exposed. I mean, he wasn't going there to, if anything, he was going there in good faith to, boost this business up. But when things are boosted, everything gets boosted, even the stuff that's kind of messed up. And I think a lot of people see this and also think that it's the imagery it's very hard for a lot of black folks to get around that. And I completely understand that. Because it does feed into what she was what she was bringing out to the legacy of this happening over and over again. But like I mentioned earlier, some other commenters, they were just saying, look, ultimately, some people are happy with their arrangement. So you just leave him be. If that's what Unc want to do, that's him. Let him be. You know what I mean? I ain't making no special trip out there anyway. So let me correct myself. I said Temecula. I actually meant Marietta, which is they're towns. They're like right next door to each other. So sometimes I get the two confused. But yeah, they're in Marietta. They're not in Temecula. So let me correct myself on that. But I do get it. I do get it, and but I think that the owner is the one that's actually, in this case, he's making it worse, and I think there's ways he can fix this from a PR standpoint and still move on. You know what I mean? But you still regurgitating the fact that you dropped the bag. I mean, that's not helping you. It's not helping you at all, and unfortunately, when you are built by the internet, when you're built by social media mob, the same mob unfortunately will have the power to tear you down too. So this is just a warning to folks. When you want to go viral on stuff, viruses a lot of times can't be controlled, and so sometimes it has a way of coming back on you. So anyway, I thought that was really something. And so anyway, let's move on. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I thought that was a good, interesting story that's still evolving. Let's go to the next story here. This was something that and we're going to go by way of Mississippi. Down in Mississippi, I don't know if you guys heard this story here. We'll go on this. We have for years have talked about different experimentation that has taken place in this country. Against black folks, everything from preventing our women from having children, to the skin experimentations that were taking place in the prison in Pennsylvania by the Jewish doctor. There's many other experiments that we have covered. There was one where they literally were cutting open the stomachs of black and Hispanic children in New York and filling it up with different pharmaceuticals, sewing it back up because the children refused to take the pharmaceuticals by mouth. And this was in New York City back in the 80s, I think it was. And the children that didn't make it, they just shipped their bodies up to upstate New York and just dug a big hole and dumped their bodies here. This is in the 80s, y'all, here in the United States. Yeah, nobody really talks about that anymore, right? It doesn't talk because they're not children from Gaza. But this happens in the United States. Things like this happens a whole lot. And so experimentation in black folks in this country is apple pie as the United States. It is. And so here, unfortunately, in 2026, it's still going on. And so with that, let's go to this. Now, this segment may be a little bit troubling for some of y'all, but it's news and we do need to talk about it because people need to be very aware that this stuff still goes on. This was posted in November of last year. I'll just read the article here. They says, two newly discovered videos taken inside the Rankin County jail shows officers mocking and laughing at an intellectually disabled inmate. The same man guards had filmed days earlier being shocked in an electrified vest after he asked for a Coke. Former department employees said the videos recorded in 2018 were shared widely on an encrypted WhatsApp group chat. The footage provides a deeper look into the culture of the jail, where a recent investigation by Mississippi Today and the New York Times revealed that guards and jail administrators routinely beat inmates. In one video, Larry Buckhalter stands before the camera in his prison jumpsuit and a party hat and sings happy birthday to Barry in an apparent reference to Barry Vaughn, the former head of the jail who is now the undersheriff. In the second video, someone off camera instructs Buckhalter to tell him you love him. I love you, Barry, he says, and gleefully announces in his last day in jail. As he speaks, a man in uniform standing behind him slams a plastic sign onto the floor. Startled, Buckhalter jumps and screams as the people off camera laugh. The videos were created days after Buckhalter had asked jail guards for a Coke in October of 2018. Shortly after his request, the guards strapped him to an electrified vest intended to keep violent inmates under control. Then they filmed him screaming and convulsing while they shocked him. And then I guess a voice you hear, "Now you get a Coke," a female guard says at the end of the video. "It's all over. I'm so proud of you, Larry." Now, I know this is going to be troubling for some of y'all. I'm just going to play parts of the video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. But I think it is important for us to play it so that we can see at least parts of it, and you can really see that, yes, this does still go on here in the United States. So if you have children or whatever, or maybe this is something that, you just don't want to see, I completely get it and understand, but we're going to play this, and it's no reflection on you on a negative way at all. So I don't see that at all. This is just for the public record. That's why I'm playing this. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this, and here we go. And I'm going to keep it at this. I don't even want to blow it up to be the whole screen. I really don't even want to do that. I mean, I think you're going to get the idea. All right, here we go.
Yeah, you're going to bite your tongue off.
All right. Say, my name's Larry, and I volunteered for this.
Wait, hold on. Let me take a deep breath.
Okay.
My name Larry, and I volunteered to this. Oh! 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 Come on! Come on! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Barry.
Hard.
Yay!
You gotta go to hard.
There you go. Yay.
Hey!
Tell him you love me.
Barry, I love you, man. I'm gone. I got released today. I love y'all, man. Thank you.
So, yeah, there you go. So that was back in 2018, actually. I said 2025, 2026. But the article came out in 2025. But the videos in of itself are coming out now. And they said that these videos were actually on WhatsApp. And that's how they was able to get to these videos. Let me tell you something. There are a lot of sick people in this world that do some very dark and demonic things. And it's not just white people. In this case, there was white people, but there's just people, period. You got a lot of people that do some very dark things, are really into some dark stuff. And for someone to share that and to find some kind of enjoyment out of that is just, it's insane. It's insane. There's a lot of directions I can go with this. Of course that, because my goal is, I want people to see that evil is evil, period. And it's a lot easy for us in cases like this to personify it as just white people doing the evil and being angry at that. And we have a long history book as to legitimizing that. But evil is evil is evil is evil, period. But I want to talk about this particular situation because this ties into a long history of black men and black women as well, particularly in these prison environments, who have been subjected to this type of evil. And a lot of times people look at these individuals and say, well, they committed crimes and all this other stuff. This man, you could clearly see, has some mental issues going on. And this is why they did what they did. And I saw, my daughter wanted me to watch this series, Cross. I forgot the name of the actor, but it's what's his name? Something Patterson. He wrote it's a book series. It's about a detective. His name is Alex Cross. Anyway, they have a series. They just renewed it for season 2. And she was like, "Oh, Dad, you got to see this." And she was just saying the reason why she really liked it. She said, because it's like, she said, it's real black people. She said, it's the black man. She was saying it's the black woman, and you got the beautiful black children and all of that. And it's, they're not really playing in the kind of stereotypes that you would typically see and all that. So she really liked it for that, and wanted me to see it. So I have been putting it off because, I'm a one and done person. I like, if it's a movie, I'll watch it and it's like, boom, it's done. But a series is something I got to commit myself to. And I'm like, okay, it's got to be good, man. I don't want to get halfway through it and then have to stop. Like there was this one series I was watching and it was good and all of that. I got to like episode 4 and I saw where they were going with this and it was like so unnecessary. I was like, click, I ain't watching it. But this one I would have to say was pretty good. It was very well done. I'm not familiar with the books. Maybe some of you guys are, but I saw it. I thought it was a good series. Now, for me, this is me now. Okay, I can't speak for you. The villain in this story was actually 2 villains, but the main one, this guy, he was like kind of like a Silence of the Lambs kind of dude. I mean, he was in some weird, freaky stuff that they had to, get through a lot of stuff to finally get this dude, right? And it was interesting because you didn't really know who it was until like episode 2 or maybe 3. But then after that, they started expanding the view and you saw that, okay, it ain't just this dude. It's like half of DC was all in on this. Like he was going to be doing this, his ritual thing or whatever. And he had all these big politicians and people in business and all of that. They all on a Zoom call. And he's giving them updates and letting them know, hey, listen, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're going to, to this individual, we're going to do this and that. Oh, it's going to be such a blessed day. And the thing that really troubled me when I was watching this was that I said, this is not just a story. This stuff really does happen. You got people who are really into some weird, freaky, demonic stuff, and they do it all the time. With all of these voices that are out here crying for Epstein, release the Epstein files, I could personally tell you there are numbers of those same people that are into some weird stuff. And look no further than the church. Look no further than the church. It could be the white church. It could be the black church. It could be the Asian church. But I am here to tell you there's a lot of freaks within the church that are into some very dark, crazy, weird stuff where they like seeing people getting tortured and all that kind of nonsense. There are people that are out here like this. And bringing it back to this man here, it just shows you just how evil this world really is. That you have people out there that would look at something like that and get some kind of enjoyment out of that and think it's funny. And so I don't assume anything from anybody. That's why my circle is very small when I'm dealing with people. And even, who you interact with on social media too. I'm telling you, it's even in some of the books. I've been saying for a long time I was going to get to it, but one day I just have to build my strength up to do it. But this is going to be a video with the help of my daughter. She's going to give me more of the intel on this. But do you guys know that there is a whole genre of novels that are out here where women fantasize about being taken advantage of? I'm not going to use the R word because whatever, right? I'm talking here in the United States. They I mean, we saw that with the movie, Mr. Black Will See You, whatever the name of that movie was, right? We saw that with the movies, but it's a whole world. And my daughter is funny. Okay, you hear me? Because she was like, how deep does this hole go? And it's not just that. There are books where I'm talking novels, and there are fan clubs where you have women who are fantasizing about being taken advantage of by insects, by animals, I'm not making any of this up. I'm not making any of this up. And it's not just like a joke. It's like for real. Like they're fantasizing about this stuff. So we live in a very, very dark and serious world. How do you fix something like that? Well, part of it is like what I'm doing right now. That's why I wanted to show the video to get people into my having that understanding that, hey, listen, this kind of stuff still goes on. This is the world we live in today. It is a very dark. There are people who are really into some very dark stuff. And it's not, and what we tell ourselves is, oh, it's only white people that do this stuff. But let me kind of bring you up to speed on some of that, because I have some things right here I could show you right now. Here's a story here. This is a young lady, young black lady. This is in New Jersey, I believe. So let me play this right quick. No, not that one. It's right here. I got a few stories I could play you right now, but let's start off with this one.
Shot and killed in her own home over the weekend. And it turns out, prosecutors say, the gunman is a boy that she was dating. Officers made an arrest at the scene, and New Jersey reporter Tony Yates is now live in Edison with what we know tonight. Tony?
Yeah, Mike, earlier this afternoon, groups of teenagers were stopping by keeping vigil outside next to these candles and balloons that have been laid out here in honor of their friend. And as you said, yes, she was just 17 years old. But some of those friends told us she had done so much already to make their lives better.
I would never expect my life without justice. Like, I really knew it like 10 plus years. Like, I didn't even believe it at first.
Friends and close relations tell us the victim was 17-year-old Justice Deas. They tell us she was so much more to them than the word friend could ever describe. Layla Martinez had known her since middle school.
Ever since then, like, we just been locked in forever. I used to get picked on in school, and Justice, whenever I needed her, like, she was there for me whenever I needed her. When I had no one, I always had her.
At 1:19 Saturday morning, a 911 call was made reporting shots fired at this townhome on Grove Avenue. First responders raced to the home, where the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office says a 17-year-old female was found deceased inside. A 17-year-old male from Plainfield who was at the home was immediately taken into custody and charged with acts of juvenile delinquency. Those would have been weapons and manslaughter charges had the teenage suspect been an adult.
I just stopped there. So there you go. That's one story. Let me just go ahead and get the rest of these stories out. They're all video clips here. But see, if you're going to have rage for that story that I showed you, the one in Mississippi, then we need to have the same level of rage when it comes to these kind of stories as well. Here's another one here. A black man basically randomly, according to this, randomly decided to kill this boy here. Let's take a look here.
Council
eliminated half of my jury
before 2021.
At least you're being honest. But this guy up here talking about his lawyer is half Nigerian, so he can't. Nigga, well, you're going to be in whole prison in a moment. I mean, come on. Anyway, here's another story. I'll just give you this last one here.
Yo, man, you killed 6 people?
Huh?
Did you kill 6 people, sir?
No.
Huh?
13. They just...
You killed 13?
13 people.
Okay. Why'd you do it?
The 7. Oh, my. Dude.
See, okay, so it says prosecutors say they may seek the death penalty for the man accused of killing 6 people in Mississippi, including a 7-year-old girl who was executed in front of witness. Darika Moore, 24, was charged with 3 counts of capital murder, 3 counts of first-degree murder, and so forth and so on. Folks, I can go on and on and on with this. And again, like someone said that, you know, all groups have their own perversions and stuff, and that's absolutely true. You know, but we got to stop putting a color on this when we're talking about evil, and begin to start looking at evil as it is. It's evil. It's wicked. People are in some dark, demonic stuff. And if you think that the Epstein files, it only starts and stops at that level, think again. There are a lot of people, even in this community. I live here in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, and you got a lot of Latter-day Saints people around here. And I'm telling you, spend some time here on these YouTube streets. There are a lot of people fessing up to a lot of things that are going on, even in that whole situation. A lot of stuff that goes on. And it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as well. And, you know, I do hope the other unk that we showed, the one that was in a Mississippi prison, our hope is that he, you know, gets some real help, and that, you know, that justice does come in and you know, and give that man what he truly deserves as far as that's concerned. And that those guards as well, our hope is that same thing for them, that they get what they deserve as well. All right. So just wanted to bring that out to you. Let's move on to the next story here. The next story here, I'll just bring this up on the screen. Have you guys been following this? You know, I Show Speed. Now, he's a gamer, and I think his claim to fame was on Twitch. All right, so I don't really spend any time on Twitch. I'm looking at the sweat coming up on my thing on Twitch, but he blew up. I mean, he blew up beyond that, and now he's like big on YouTube, really big on YouTube. Well, anyway, he does a lot of, you know, traveling in different countries and stuff like that, and all he does is show up. I mean, that's all he's doing. He's not really doing too much. He just shows up, and I mean, people just come out to see this dude, you know, and he literally just shows up. He'll go into a restaurant, he'll go in somewhere else, and that's it. He just shows up, and people love this dude. And so anyway, it was right now he's in Africa, on the continent of Africa. So he's going to all these different African countries. Couple of quick observations for me, and what I've noticed is I asked both of my children. I said, now if an African person came to America, what African person or celebrity or YouTube personality or whatever, you know, can you name right now? If they were to come to America, they would get the same response. They couldn't think of one, you know? And so it just, again, it does underscore the point, even though I have strong disagreements with the FBA cult. But this one point, as far as the status of Black Americans in the world, it is something of note. And it is something that many people in the world actually do look up to. And I thought that was quite fascinating to sit and watch. And it was a point of pride, too, because, you know, he's very animated. He's a very animated person or whatever, but if you keep watching him, I mean, I think he's doing a pretty decent job. And, you know, if you're looking for an ambassador, you know, for this generation, I think he would definitely be one that should be seriously considered. I mean, he's just got the personality. He's got all of that. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see he's reaching out to these different countries and all of that. And, you know, he's putting on a good face, you know, for just Black folks, I think, in my opinion. And then another thing that it points out, if you look at this image here, you'll see he's in Ethiopia. Well, I don't know if he's in Ethiopia right now, but he was in Ethiopia recently. That was a funny one. I got to catch up on the videos, so I didn't see the Ethiopia one. I mean, his videos are like 3.5, 4 hours long because it's like a constant stream. So I just kind of skipped through it. And but he's in Ethiopia, and these individual locals are actually, he's running across these guys that look just like him. I mean, take a look at this. I mean, you can't tell me these guys don't look like they're related. I mean, they look like they're related, man. And they even got the mannerisms down and all of that. And I bring that out because, again, this shuts down a lot of people that I hear is saying that they don't look like us. We look different. We don't even look like Africans. And I'm looking at this like, yeah, okay, all right. We very much, it definitely underscores the point, that yes, we are there. We're ancestrally, we're related to different people on the continent of Africa. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, you can't get around it. You can't get around it, but we're told that we're supposed to look at Russian paintings and see black folks in that. But a black man goes to Africa, I'm not supposed to see what I'm seeing. Okay. But anyway, it's just, it's just really something to see. And if you're in my age bracket of a certain age, I know he's young, like they say he's 20 years old, but give him a check out. Give him a check out. This, I would say this is a very positive thing, to see. There's a lot of, as the world is full of a lot of negative things, but in this case here, I think this is a good example of a young man that's actually trying to do something positive. And I think he's doing a pretty good job at it. I'm not, people can nitpick about anything, but I think he's doing a pretty good job at, really being like an ambassador, if you will, and a world ambassador. And it's just really something to sit back and to watch and to say, wow, there is hope for this generation after all. And I think he does a really good example of it. So say they try to bring up the hairlines. Our hairlines are different. Yeah, just like they say Africans can't grow beards, and it's like, okay, it's stupid. It's stupid. Anyway, speaking of which, let's move on to this video here. Let me see. This was another video here. There's so many videos I wanted to show y'all. I told y'all it was going to be a lot that I was going to be covering in this broadcast here. Well, here's one here that I wanted to share with y'all. This is a Hebrew Israelite. I want you to take a listen to the argument that he is presenting here. All right, let's take a listen to it. Let me bring it up on the screen for you, and let's hit play and take a listen.
So let me help my brother Moore King out, because he is my brother. He says the Bible, that same belt was then used to hold up your pants. That's what the belt was meant for. Somebody decided to take the belt and use it to inflict pain. Same with the Bible. The Bible is good for us. It's to help liberate us. It's to help establish us as a government and establish us as order as a nation. The problem is our oppressors used it, twisted it, kept us illiterate where we couldn't read it and understand it, and then used it to justify our slavery in certain passages, which they never gave us true understanding of. It's the same as the belt. The belt was used to whoop your ass, but the belt was good because it held up your pants. The Bible is used or will be used for our liberation, even though at one time our oppressors used it for our enslavement.
Okay. All right. Quite interesting take there. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the short that I posted earlier. Was it yesterday, day before? Not sure. Let me see if I can pull this up for you very quickly here. Give me just a moment here. So I look for it here on my drive showing up. Oh, no, they decided to show. Okay, hold on for a second. That would be, come on. You could do it. Where are you? Oh, here it is. Let me play this short that I did for you guys. I think it was yesterday I posted it. Take a look.
Jim, we are so sorry for what we put you through. We just want you to know we have perfectly preserved your history in this book.
And that is how we got the Bible.
So 400 years of slavery was love?
And this is the argument that, again, I came out of that belief system myself, that that it's this belief that, and I'm saying Hebrew Israelites in this particular case, but it's people, period. There's this assumption that the Bible came out of heaven. It fell out of the sky. It was in the most perfect form. and it fell into the hands of man, and it's perfect. And according to what this guy was saying, he was trying to say that, yeah, it's just that when the enslavers, they took the Bible and they used it for something bad. But the truth of the matter is that it can also be used for, it was originally supposed to be used for something good. And I'm like, well, bruh, do you not know the history behind the people who actually put together the Bible? And I ain't talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, or, or Moses or anything like that. I'm talking about the actual people and their belief systems. You do know that the Catholic Church played a very critical role in this. You do know that the Catholic Church actually was the same system that put the order out to enslave us. You do know that, right? You do know the history of some of these church fathers who really, really hated women, like really hated women. And there are many verses you can point to where it came straight from them. You do know these things, right? But there's this mindset that we have adopted that the Bible is this, it's this perfect thing that has been untouched. Its origins are untouched, that it just fell out of the sky. And it's just that evil men took hold of it first and they twisted it and all this other stuff. No, it did not. It started off in a very bad place. And when I ask, the first question I will always ask people, this is why you won't ever see me in any debate. You'll never see me on YouTube in a debate or invited to one. I'm talking about with Hebrews or whatever. Let me tell you why. Because my first question would be, prove to me historically and factually that the account of Adam and Eve was factually accurate. That would be the first question I would say. Can you document that? Can you prove that Adam and Eve, that account is factually and historically accurate? Can you prove that by not using the Bible? Then from there, I would go to prove that Abraham even existed outside of the Bible. Can you prove that? Can you prove that Abraham existed beyond the Bible, beyond the pages of the Bible? Was there a man called Abraham that did all the things that the Bible says he did? But can you factually prove that outside of the Bible? Then I'll just go even by that time. I mean, there shouldn't be any survivors at that point, but we can move further. I could say same thing with Moses. Now, Moses, you're going to have, that's a mixture, because what many scholars believe that there was a person that what we know today as Moses was actually pulled from from Egypt. There was some Egyptian, I can't think of the name right now, but an Egyptian pharaoh. They actually pulled the inspiration of the Moses story from him. And then over the years, that's how we get the Moses story. We can go on and on and on. So if you can't factually, if your belief system, and notice I said belief system, if your belief system starts off with something that you cannot factually prove, then there is nothing to argue about. There's nothing to debate. So it would be a very quick thing for me. It's not making me like the better man or anything like that. It's just, that's where this begins. This is where the conversation should begin. And if you are, and you have to face the fact that you are dealing with a belief system, and unfortunately, black folks, we have been hoodwinked, and now you have many black folks who hoodwink themselves into believing that the Bible, like he was saying, is the belt that we needed. I said, this is the most self-hating belief system that I could think of. That you actually believe that being identified with curses is a flex. You have people today that will say The reason why we know we are God's, the true people, that God's chosen people, you're talking about black people, is because we're cursed. My children, I can't speak for your children, but my children don't go around and saying that, yep, that's my dad because we are cursed. Nobody says that in their right mind, but people who are enslaved mentally do. So if you're someone that is bragging about being cursed, you just, please keep it moving. Please keep it moving, because we're not doing that in 2026. We're not doing that in 2026, y'all. We're not doing that not here. We're not doing that here in 2026. We're not. And it's unfortunate. You know, we still got a lot of people that are still locked into that. And I understand why. I get it. But my challenge for you in 2026, you're going to have to start challenging some of these things. You're going to have to start asking some real questions, and don't leave it up to people on YouTube to do it for you. It's time for you to start stepping up and doing it yourself. All right. And so anyway, with that, let's move on here. Couple more items here. I have a ton of things I could show you, but it's all good. We'll just hit a few more things and then we'll just keep it moving here. There is, let's see, where do I want to start? Let me start off with this here. I tell you, I posted something earlier on our community page. Let me see if I can pull that up for you right quick here. Let me get that up here on our community page. And I said, you know what? I do have hope for Africa seeing these posts here. Let me pull this up for you. There it is right there. There you go. These are some random posts I'm finding, and I'm finding a lot more. Check this out. And these are all like people, African folks that are on X. First one was, if Eve was created as an afterthought, why was Adam created with a penis and testicles? I mean, did you even think about asking that? Why was man, if Eve wasn't even, because the way the Bible is written in a way where it was like, and God saw that Adam was alone and he needed a soulmate. So based off of that, he decided to make a woman. But the implication is that if Adam had this sense of loneliness or being alone, if he didn't have that, he wouldn't have created him. He wouldn't have created Eve. In other words, if Adam was like, yeah, I'm just doing my thing, man, it wouldn't have been no woman based off of that. So why was our particular parts created? And these particular parts are specifically designed for reproduction. That's what they're designed for. They're not designed for anything else. Here's another one. So he brought us here from heaven for us to beg him to take us to heaven again. Okay. Well, why did God not punish the Europeans for enslaving Africans? See, this is the question that Hebrew Israelites will not answer that. And so the answer they will give is one day, when this thing flipped. That's the answer that they'll always give. They're no different than, unfortunately, what was said back during the days of slavery. One day. Meanwhile, people done been born, lived their lives, and died. And their last breath, they even saying one day. Aren't we? Are we gonna learn the lesson? Anyway, let's move on. Someone else, they said Genesis 28:12, and Jacob dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and the top of it reached heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And then this person said, my question, why do angels need a ladder when they have wings? I actually left a comment on that one. I said, well, my version says he actually saw an escalator. Here's another one. Same God who created Satan wants to save us from Satan. And then one more. Shout out to all the religious people who cheat, lie, gossip, and fornicate, but don't drink or smoke because it's a sin. So I have some hope. I do have some hope for Africa after all. I have some hope for Africa, man. I tell you, seeing that I was just cracking up. And they said, why is it that, and someone else, they posted something, they was like, why is it that you notice that the only one that asked for money is Jesus or God or whatever, Satan don't ask for your money, but it's the Bible God is the one that's always asking for 10%. Satan ain't asking for no 10%. And I know some people may say, well, because he wants all of it and all that. But no, this is a specific monetary ask. 10% of your money. Okay? There is no 10% rule if you ain't following the Bible God. There is no 10% rule on that. Questions worth asking. Observations worth observating. All right, real quick. All right, let's go ahead and let's wind this down here. Here's a couple of videos here that I want to play here. Here's someone else for the great continent of Africa. Let's take a listen to her observations here. Let me go ahead and switch to this right there. And the video plays now. Let's go.
Not enough words to describe how angry this makes me, but I will say this. The state of Israel is an abomination on our collective humanity, an aberration of morality, an irredeemable evil that must be dismantled and destroyed the same way Nazi Germany and apartheid South Africa were. The state of Israel is a curse that must be broken. It is a plague on every human conscience. Banning these international aid agencies, especially after 2 years of ongoing unrelenting genocide, ethnic cleansing, and starvation of Palestinians, is a calculated move to bring to fruition their final solution of what these Israeli Jews have planned against Palestinians. These international aid agencies like Save the Children and Medicine Sans Frontières did absolutely nothing wrong. But Israel could not stand being criticized or questioned by anyone. So what do? They weaponize the very basic amenities of food, water, health, support that these aid agencies bring to Palestinians.
And she goes on there, but I just want you to hear that yes, you do have people on the continent that are seeing what's happening now. In this case, she's talking about what's going on in Gaza. She talks about some other things too. What the Israelis are doing in places like throughout Africa, the manipulation and stuff that's going on as well. But in this case, she's talking about this article here. This is Israeli ban on aid agencies in Gaza will have catastrophic consequences. And so you have people on the continent that are calling them out. And that's a very good thing to see. Meanwhile, here in the United States, the Zionism movement is still on a march. Remember, I told you that you're going to, in 2026, you're going to see pastors going on overdrive when it comes to Zionism. Greg Laurie has been doing this for years. And but I want you to hear what he is saying, his logic on this. I'm not going to play the whole clip here, but I want you to hear him talk about Israel.
Why do, from your perspective, Christians need to defend or support or even understand the importance of Israel?
Everything we have came to us through God's chosen people, the Jews. He established a covenant with them in Genesis 12, and to Abraham and his descendants, he said, I will bless those that bless you. I will curse those that curse you. Sometimes people will say, well, modern day Israel, that doesn't apply to them. Of course it does. Why? It's the Jewish homeland. And why is there a Jewish homeland? It happened on the heels of something called the Holocaust. And I think a lot of young people don't know about that. And that is that horrible event that happened really not that long ago when you take a big look, look at the big picture, where 6 million Jewish men, women, and children were put to death in Nazi concentration camps, extermination camps, as part of Hitler's so-called final solution. I would encourage everyone out there, go visit a museum.
Okay, all right. So we hear where he's going with that. Okay, I think I'm going to end with this because this is going to be my response to that. And this is a bit of history that I'm pretty sure that most of you guys have never heard of. And he mentioned Israel, the whole verse, I will bless those that bless thee and I will curse those that curse thee, right? That's one of their favorite verses that they like to quote. And you heard out of his own mouth him saying that, that how Israel became a nation, talking about 1948 or whatever, and how it, the whole process and all that it was a blessing. Now, for those of you who, grew up in a church like I did, this was something that was force fed down our throats over and over again. 1948 was a year that God did a miraculous thing on the earth. Israel became a nation. Israel became a whole nation. It was out of all them impossibilities that Israel became a nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to introduce to you a story that, like I said, that you probably never heard of. Now, it's a video, the guy, never mind the visuals here, but I want you to listen to I want you to take a listen to it. In fact, I'll just play the audio. You don't even need to see the visuals because the visuals really don't add anything to it. But let's play the audio. I want you to take a listen to this because this gives us context on what took place in 1948. Let's take a listen.
They put babies in the ovens. That's every single accusation is a confession. I watched a documentary tonight called 1948, The Catastrophe and Creation. And in the village of Deir Yassin, so in 1948, they decimated between 400 and 600 entire villages gone, wiped out. And in Deir Yassin, a man witnessed the Irgun, you know what that is, hopefully, tell a mother to put her son in an oven in a bakery. And when she wouldn't, they threw him in. And then they threw in his father. And the man who witnessed this was outside and ran away. The rest in the bakery could have been thrown in as well. Every single thing that they say that they fear, they are. They are the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. And so this is in 1948. There's a town, and I'm trying to pull up the name of it. It was called, and I looked all this up here, and I will spell it for you once I get it up. It's called here we go. Deir, D-E-I-R, Yassin. D-E-I-R, Yassin. Y-A-S-S-I-N. I'll spell it one more time. D-E-I-R, and then it's a space. This is Deir Yassin. So it's Yassin. D-E-I-R, then it's Yassin. Y-A-S-S-I-N. This is a town, and it was an area in that area of what we call today Israel, state of Israel. It had many villages there. The Zionists came in, led by the Stern Gang. The Stern Gang. I want you to look them up. The Stern Gang. Stern Gang was probably one of the most vicious gangs that existed during that time. They had presence here in the United States as well as other parts of the world. Now, as you know, in Hollywood loves to talk about the Italians and the Italian mafia, but who runs Hollywood? But the real story is it wasn't the Italian mafias that were the most dangerous. It was actually the Jewish mafias that were the most dangerous, and they were the most largest, and they were the most feared. You don't get that in Hollywood. You're never going to see a movie on that, will you? In fact, it was the Jewish mafia that created Las Vegas. Okay? But anyway, Another story for another day. Stern Gang had presence, were very Zionist. They had presence in that part of the world, in Palestine. So here they come, the Zionists. They come and they said, "Okay, this is our land." This is after the Balfour Agreement, and they said, "This is our land." A Balfour Agreement. Sorry. So they went down into these villages. They decimated these people. Decimated them. They said it was basically what you're seeing going on in Gaza right now. It was going on then too. That's how Israel started. They decimated these people. And what she said, there's a couple of accounts where they said that there was a bakery where these they weren't even Israeli, these Zionists went in to this bakery and they basically told them to throw the baby in the oven. And then they end up throwing the baby in the oven and threw some other people that I think they sent in the oven as well. Now, because we're on YouTube, I can't get into the whole oven claim. I can't do that. I cannot do that on this platform. I'm talking about the other oven claim. I can't get into that. But I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? I'm not going to go any further with that. But what we can say on this platform is that actually did happen in this area. And the estimates I'm seeing, they said up to 600 people. I've heard anywhere between 1 and 200. It could be, we don't know. I could still look around and see if I can get a much definitive number on that. But they said that they brutalized these people. This is how the state of Israel started. And I guarantee you that nobody has probably shared that with you before. But it's out here. And guess what? If you put it in ChatGPT, put the name of that town I just gave you, it'll bring it up. See, ChatGPT doesn't really, there's things that it will hide, but there's a lot of things it doesn't hide. It's just that a lot of people don't even know to ask those things because you don't even know about it. This is why we do what we do with the digital library. Because with the digital library that we have with these books, there are a lot of things that you will never know until you pick up volunteer this information. You have to come to the platform with some knowledge about that information. And that's how you learn about these things. Yeah, decimated these people. And there's other stories too. And then I'll throw this in. Like I said again, I got a lot of other videos I could have shown, but I'm not, for time's sake, I'll just say that for another day. But what's going on in Venezuela right now, that's not actually, you think that's, what am I talking about? The fires that are happening right now in Venezuela. A lot of locals are saying, and it's even in the local news, the whole nine, they are saying that this was due to Israelis that were posing as backpackers, and they literally was setting fire to that area. They were setting fire to this stuff. They were setting fire to that. And I showed you a graphic on our post, on our community post page, where this goes all the way back to like the early 2000s, if not or earlier than that, where they were doing the same thing in Chile, setting fires to it. Where does that come from? Oh, Dwayne, you're just making stuff up. You're just pulling stuff out of the air. Well, this is from Herzl. Herzl, he is credited as like the founder of, what's going on here? Zionism, modern day, what we call Zionism today. And this was Theodore Herzl back in 1904. And I'll read what I can as much as I can here. But anyway, it says, shall we choose Palestine or Argentina? We shall take what is given us and what is selected by Jewish public opinion. The society will settle both these points. Argentina is one of the most fertile countries in the world, extends over a vast area with a sparse population and mild climate. The Argentine Republic would derive considerable profit from the secession of a portion of its territory to us. The present infiltration of Jews have certainly produced some friction, and it would be necessary to enlighten the Republic on the intrinsic differences of our new movement. Palestine is our ever memorable historic home. The very name Palestine would attract our people with a force of marvelous potency. And it goes on some other stuff there. But they have been talking about acquiring Venezuela or not Venezuela, sorry, Argentina for a very long time. They have been talking about this for a very, very long time. So this is not something brand new. And this is the stuff they're doing. I posted 2 times, not once, but twice, that book that's called You the Gentiles. It's written by a Jewish guy who was a adamant Zionist. And maybe I'll just close out the broadcast with that. Maybe I'll just close that out because, folks, you're going to have to start taking this and these people very seriously. And I'm saying this because we still got too many of our people who want to be them. Too many of our people who want to be these people. And it's called You Gentiles by Maurice Samuel. All right. And this is what they wrote. This is what he wrote. Not me. This is what he wrote. We Jews we the destroyers, will remain the destroyers forever. Nothing that you will do will meet our needs or demands. We will forever destroy because we need a world of our own, a God world, which is not in your nature to build. Beyond all temporary alliances with this or that faction lies the ultimate split in nature and destiny, the enmity between the game and God. But those of us who fail to understand that truth will always be found in alliance with your rebellious factions until disillusionment comes. The wretched fate which scattered us through your midst has thrust this unwelcome role upon us. So Zionists, in their own documented history, have said themselves that they are destroyers. This is what they do. And like I said, look no further than the fires that are going on right now. Look no further than this bloodthirst for wanting to go to war with Iran and, you know, going down in Venezuela and wanting to take over that government. And then there's some other guy that's tied to, you know, pushing Trump to get Antarctica or, you know, or Greenland or whatever, you know. So this is what these people are doing. They themselves are calling themselves destroyers. So until folks, now black folks, the solution for us, we have to disassociate ourselves with that whole world. Stop trying to claim their stuff. They are the ones that gave you that book. They gave that to you. It's no some trick that they had the book and God told, and they're like, yes, sir. If you think that foolishness, then you need to just go. Go on, just go, leave. No, they gave you that book. They gave it to you. And they themselves are calling themselves destroyers. And you want to be that? You want to be that. Black folks will never win thinking that way. You won't. You just stay on the plantation. It's hard. I understand leaving the plantation. It's never easy. It's not easy. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm gone. I've been left. And I'm going to stay off of that. And I'm encouraging you to do the same. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much always for tuning in. Remember, again, we got that citrus promo going on right now over at sombertree.com, along with that soursop amazing tea that we have right now bottled. You will get to your home frozen or at least very cold because we pack it with ice pack and all of that. So make sure you check that out, and a lot of other things you'll find over at sombertree.com. Also, make sure you join our our digital book club. Just go on our community post page. Make sure you go on there, and the instructions on how to get on it is right there. It's very simple and it's very easy. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you again soon.
From the leaf to the bottle, yeah, we slow it down. No rush in the process, we let love come around. Yeah. Sun on the flavor, lime in the blend. Once you taste something real, you don't play pretend. Ain't no shortcuts, ain't no disguise. You can see it in the color, taste it when you try. Grown folks sip, yeah, it hit just right. Daytime cooler or warm late night. If you know, then you know what I mean. When it's brewed real slow, keep it clean. Let me tell you what it is, my friend.